Bench warmers, we have made it to March. We have done it. I'm on spring break, so I'm enjoying that thoroughly. We'll be able to talk a little bit about that. We just got back from Las Vegas. If you follow us, which everybody should be doing at FEO2B Pod, if you don't do it already, it helps us out. It doesn't really cost you anything. Doesn't cost you anything at this point, but it might help Niko and I turn this into more than just a hobby at some point down the road. Very excited to be back with you. My name is Jimmy Pilato. If this is your first time joining, this is episode 223. And for center of attention, I know what everybody is planning on us to talk about, and we're definitely going to mention it. This is, I know, Niko's favorite time of the year. It's not like I don't enjoy it. I love competition. I love seeing guys put it all on the line, and obviously national championship fever in March is for more than just basketball, and I'm going to be able to talk about that now. It is also the weekend of the National Wrestling Championships. This is taking place in Philadelphia this year, and we have 10 new national champions going to be crowned. Last 2 weeks have been spent by myself. I've watched the Big Ten championships, ACC championships, Big 12 championships. There's the Ivy Leagues that I'm going to be looking for. The tournament starts tomorrow. I will be releasing, I don't know if I'm probably doing a blog as well, but I am going to be doing brackets. I'm going to be filling those out after we get done with this show here. Very glad that everybody is tuning in, but I think we should talk about the elephant in the room. If you're not a wrestling fan, this is probably not right up there on your list, but Penn State with Cale Sanderson, we talked about them a couple times. I've tried to mention them, especially after the Big Tens. They won another conference championship. They have the chance for winning 12 national titles in the last 16 years. They, I think, are first seed in the tournament for 6 of the 10 weight classes. They are on par to put up another dominant performance, and wrestling kind of goes that way a little bit. It goes up and down, left and right. I'm excited for what we have coming up because there's obviously Cinderella stories are the thing in March. That's what everybody is tuning in for. We're going to talk about one of those Cinderella stories from the conference tournament in a couple of my segments coming up later on. I know Niko is giving me his grace, and we're going to get into basketball, but don't sleep on the March Madness tournament. That's also coming up this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So in between basketball games, if you have multiple screens set up like everybody should, you can throw that on off to the side. You're going to see a lot of guts. You're going to see a lot of heart. You're going to see a hell of a lot of championship performances. 330 of the best wrestlers in the nation are at this tournament. It is one of the most exciting. If you are a Bo Nickel fan, he's mentioned it. It is the best wrestling event in the entire world. All right, that does it for me. Episode 223. Niko will be joining me on the other side of the break, talking some March Madness over on the far end of the bench.
If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.
We survived. We did it. Your mic is up.
Get that pen and paper out, ladies and gentlemen. It is officially March. I know it's March 19th. I know it's March 19th, but we are on the cusp of obviously the biggest tourney in entire sports, and on starting on Thursday, and then obviously the March Madness going on. This is the best time. Pen and papers, get that old school shit going because this is the best time of the year.
Everybody does it on their phone nowadays, especially we have a group that's going to be going, so we'll be talking quite a bit about the bracket, especially as the tournament moves on. But this is a good time. Brackets, it's a lost art because we don't even use them in high school wrestling anymore. We've converted to fully online, and it just doesn't feel the same when you don't get that physical bracket at the end of a hard-fought tournament. And I know that's what everybody's excited for, and I'm sure you're like myself. You print out the brackets, hard copy. I need a physical copy just to go along with my digital one in case the internet somehow decides to turn on us.
I mean, look, it probably won't turn on us, but like being able to highlight your correct, your green correct and red incorrect as you fill out your bracket It's the best old school way of doing it. I'll have this on my fridge every single game as I'm watching the next 2 days, including my Lopes. I'll be glued to the screen with 2 TVs going on with multiple games and highlighting which ones I get correct, which ones I get wrong. Look, one day I just wanted to make it to the second weekend in terms of getting everything correct. That's all. That's my hope. I've struggled. I've had bracket busters like the first two or 3 days of each bracket the last couple of years. Like my champions, I'm pretty sure A lost in the first round last year or 2 years ago, and B lost in the second round the next year. I'm like, all right, give me some life here. Let me live a little bit. Let me extend this a little bit further in terms of how long I can win possibly.
If you're tuning in for the Vegas recap, that'll be coming up towards the end of the show. I think let's just go ahead and jump in because March is here for one thing and one thing only. We're going to go through this by tracking first the automatic bids, the conference champions from the previous weekend, because we didn't really we talked a little bit about the conference tournaments, but we didn't get to talk about the results. So let's start ACC. It's one of the biggest basketball conferences. We'll move to what we both consider the biggest one, and maybe going to come up in future parts of this segment. But the ACC, Duke gets it done. They end up taking down Clemson in the final game. There was an upset going towards the ACC championship, but what did you see out of that tournament? Do you trust Duke? I know that Cooper Flagg has that injury question hanging over his head. How do you expect the Blue Devils to rebound? Obviously, it's nice to win your conference tournament. You're going to be a 1 seed, but there's a lot of questions even still after winning the ACC.
I mean, what I saw from Duke, especially that ACC tournament, was a team that obviously when Cooper Flagg went down, a very resilient group. What John Shire has done over there has done a fantastic job in preparing the guys the right way. And like I said, this is one of the better Duke teams we've seen in the last couple of years, outside maybe that Zion or RJ Barrett team a few years back. Like, they have everything you could want. You have the hard-nosed guys, John Shire and Continot. You have a couple a blue chip 5 stars as well. They have the full package. There's a reason why they're one of the hot picks, obviously, to pick the tournament, is because they're a team that look, Duke is either known for 2 things: 1, horrible exits, or B, make it to the Final Four, make it to the national championship. And there's no in between. It's either A, a horrible early round exit, then like what happened, what is this disaster, or B, a very, very long Cinderella run. And this Duke team, like I said, with Cooper Flagg, which all things are pointing to him playing, obviously, the first game on I believe they play on Thursday. They should be ready to roll, and they should be able to walk over this first round matchup, whoever they're playing. They play the winner of tonight, so they play Friday. So,
what is the benefit for the Layton fan like myself? What is the benefit? Obviously, conference championship. There's the regular season championship and then the tournament. Which one means more for seeding? Do they take more into account the regular season standing? Do they take more into account what you were able to do in the weekend? It's a little bit strange because you play all of those regular season games to get ready for a single elimination tournament. So the format totally kind of flips on its head. What is the standard for that?
Well, I mean, look, Calipari famously just spoke out last week saying Arkansas did not care about the SEC tournament and mostly focused on the future and how they're going to look in the next round. And obviously, look, they didn't even dance, so which is even funnier. So which makes it well, actually no, they are. I see that back. They are down here. Yeah, they played Kansas in the first round, so they were one of the last teams in. But look, I think they do matter in terms of where you want to see, because like I said, if you're sitting at a bubble team like North Carolina was, or like Indiana was, every game mattered. Like if you made a dance all the way to the conference championship, then you get a little bit more of a boost in terms of being that competitive at the end of the year. Indiana, who had an early round exit in the Big Ten championship, got nicked out. West Virginia, early round exit in the in the Big 12 championship, nicked out. Like that's where those bubble teams really take an effect. I mean, when it comes to top seeds, it's all like, okay, do you want to be closer to home? Obviously, West, South, East, or Midwest regions, like, it plays into a little bit factor. If you're for instance, you're a St. John's, you have to play out west, right? You have to go through the Western region, which is very weird. But you'll have to play Western region teams that are a little bit closer to home, maybe longer travel. They can make little things more difficult. But like I said, the conference championship means a lot, especially for obviously bubble teams and more specifically teams that aren't going to get at-large bids. And that's where like I said, most Cinderellas, 95% Cinderella runs are teams from A, schools you've never heard of, B are from one school conferences where only one school is representing that conference in the national tournament. That's because they won the conference. So it plays a big factor in that term, in terms of like the Dukes, the Auburns, the Houstons, and the Floridas of the world, and the top seeds. Not as much, obviously.
Well, speaking of St. John's, let's move to the Big East. I know that's your premier college basketball bracket. They are St. John's, able to get through. The Bonnies are dancing. They're going to be a 2 seed. And first year under Rick Pitino, he gets them back to the tournament. Second year under Rick Pitino. But what are they doing that's given them the boost this year? Because obviously this season is way more successful. And they have a lot more hype, and it's not totally out of the question to see them going 3-4 rounds deep in this tournament.
Well, I mean, the thing with like Rick Pitino, it's such a crazy statistic, but he's the only coach in NCAA history to take 6 different schools to win their conference championship and dance in the tournament. Right? It's obviously St. John's. It was Iona the last couple of years. It was obviously Louisville. It was Kentucky. It's a lot of different other. He has a track record that is to be seen. And what he's done, obviously, in first year St. John's. St. John's was the doorstep of that conference for so long. Right? It was obviously Villanova. UConn the last couple of years has been very dominant there.
Georgetown had a season.
Georgetown way back in the day, like St. John's really hasn't hit that red Mustang stripe in a long time, and they've really felt it with Pitino here. And Pitino is really, like I said, it's been a lot of the portal, but you see a lot of young guys too that Pitino really can knock to, and he's done a fantastic job with that red with the Johnnies over there. And like I said, they're a reason why, frankly, they're not really a Cinderella team. Like they're a 2 seed. It's not really here come the Johnnies, so let's see what they can do. No, they're projected to be an Elite 8 team for a reason. So we'll see if Pitino and his long-standing record of greatness in March Madness, and March specifically, can help them out in the long run.
Where does he stand? We got a question coming in from our boys out in NorCal. Fat Boy Fadeaway, shout out Darren and Tyler and those guys. Where does he stand in the terms of college basketball?
I mean, of just consistent success, I put Bill Self there. Obviously, Bill Self was very, very good has been very, very good with Kansas. A lot of national championships since the year 2000. I would put Pitino on the same standing of Self. I'd throw in Calipari also, because just the track record of NBA talent, maybe not the championships level, but the talent wise that's come out of school. In terms of success, I'd put him 4th below those 2 guys. I think he surpasses Boeheim, who's at Syracuse for those years. I think he surpasses the Calhouns of the world, the early UConn days. In terms of men's basketball, like I think I have him as that 4th tier guy very, very easily. I put Coach K above him. I put Bill Self above him because Kansas has always been very, very good. And I put who's the last guy I just said? Calipari above him in terms of NBA success. But Calipari and Pitino are 1A, 1B right there. It's very, very neck and neck.
Kind of sticking in that same conference, what's up with UConn? Because they're back-to-back defending champions, and Hurley's talking a whole bunch of mess, and he's a character. I think he's great for the game. People love him or people hate him, which is basically what you need as a college coach. But what has happened to the Huskies?
When you lose 9 starters the last 2 years, 9 out of the 10 starters to the NBA or to somewhere else in consecutive years, there's a reason you're going to slow down and not be able to consistently do that. I'm sorry. That's just what happens. And look, UConn, Hurley is a psycho for a reason. I'm not denying that. He's a psycho for a reason. And they're going to be a very tough out, especially when you look at them at being an 8 seed and them being 8 seed and having to face possibly a number 1 Florida in the second round. Like that's going to be the premier matchup in the second round if we get it. But with UConn, like obviously they just lost so many bodies last 2 years. It's very, very hard to replicate that consistently. And like I said, that's why you don't see back-to-backs a lot. That's why you don't see 3-peats a lot, especially in college basketball. We rarely ever. I don't think we've ever seen a 3-peat outside of maybe the early college basketball days. So,
maybe UCLA
with Hurley. Wooden. Yeah, I mean, like Hurley has done a fantastic job of producing and making sure his guys are ready for the moment. But they're going to be tough. They're going to be very, very tough out. But I don't know if they have the legs this year.
Does he regret not taking the Lakers job? especially now that Luka's in.
No,
in Los Angeles?
I mean, you can't hindsight 2020, obviously, but I mean, if they had Luka, that would have been a different conversation. And the future of the Lakers looks a lot different today than it did in August or whenever that was when those rumors came out. I don't think he regrets it. I mean, the guy's won 2 national championships. I think he prefers college. I think you look at his coaching style. That coaching style does not work for the NBA unless your name is Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley. You do not get told what to do in the NBA. Basically, you are shown a way to do things and expected to perform. That's how it goes. As opposed to college, you have a little bit more of a hold on these guys' lives and hold on what they do on a daily basis. So I think he just likes that a little bit more. So,
yeah. I've let you I've put it off long enough. We also have Grand Canyon. What is the Lopes? The fate of the Lopes this year? They're 14 seed.
So we had a worse regular season in the last couple of years, right? We've had a very, very down year, and the big major factor in all that was obviously the WAC 2-time Player of the Year Ty and Grant Foster being injured for a majority this year. But the Lopes were still 2 seed in the WAC tournament, and they obviously ended up winning the WAC tournament over Utah Valley, who only lost 1 in-conference tournament game, which is crazy, obviously, too, with the national championship. But you look at this roster. We returned a lot of guys. We returned a lot of guys from the team last year. Ray Harrison, who's a staple, who's on the team last year, is there. Ty and Grant Foster, there as well. Duke Brennan, there still. You add in guys like Jacoby Coles, who's a guy from I believe it's either Texas A&M or it's one of those Texas schools. I can't remember, or maybe it was Mississippi State. He was a big time player who's an absolute hooper. You added in Mekhi Williams, who was a freshman of the year at UT Arlington, who was your rival last year, who was in the WAC last year, and then you stole their best player and brought him into your program. Like this team has all the makings of what that team was last year. That knocked off St. Mary's in the first round. Obviously fell to Alabama in the second round. Like this team has the tools. It's whether or not they can stay healthy for the long run. And obviously when you have that magic, when you look for magic in March, especially in Cinderellas, you need a couple things. One, you need high offensive output. GCU has one of the highest offensive outputs in the entire country in terms of what they can produce offensively. Defensively, that's a different story. But offensively, they can produce at a high output. You need 3-point shooting. Obviously, Jacoby Coles, Ray, and company and Mekhi can knock down threes very easily. That's what you look for in a Cinderella. And frankly, I don't even think it's a Cinderella anymore because Maryland is a team that was a fringe team all year, and you look at them squeaking into the as a 4 seed. They feel like they're disrespected, should have been a higher seed. There's a very, very good chance for GCU to make a little bit of noise here, especially as a 13 seed. Right? We were at 12 seed last year, got knocked down to a 13 seed. Why not give a little run and see what you can do up there in Seattle?
Well, I think Cinderellas are a good way to talk about. Shout out Terrell, Realism Sports Talk, tuning in as well. Best time of the year. What is the makings and who would be your Cinderella team that you can see happening this season?
I mean, I talked about this a couple weeks back. Like I felt like there was a 2-team race between Auburn and Duke, and I don't even know if that's even true anymore, frankly, with the injuries Duke has sustained and what we're seeing from everything across the board. But a couple teams that had a very, very interesting on. One of the teams that obviously, I mean, people, if you have social media, you're well aware of this team. But McNeese State with their manager is obviously a fun story to talk about. They have a tough matchup against Clemson, which I don't know, I'm not as confident in, but it's a fun story that'd be cool to see. Another one that a lot of people have circled, UC San Diego, a team that's playing Michigan. Obviously, Michigan had that conference championship run where they got hot in the season, which. Exactly. So that helps them big time with that momentum. I feel like that's a horrible draw for UC San Diego going into their first round matchup. They're a team that's been very hot on a lot of people's tails. I'm gonna give love to the other school in our state because I know a lot of people don't because I know a lot of people are Buffs fans for a reason. But Colorado State is a nightmare for some teams. Colorado State is an absolute nightmare. If CSU is able to get past. I see CSU is a team that, frankly, I would not be surprised in the slightest if they're playing the second weekend. Like this CSU team, top to bottom, is really running on a tear, especially in the Mountain West. And what they've been doing behind the likes. Let me find his name. I can't remember off the top of my head. I can't. Niko Clifford, who's the 6'6" guard. he's from Colorado Springs, a guy that's really come on the scene, a guy that frankly is going to be a draft pick in next year's draft too. Like he's been that good for them. He has done fantastic things at the guard position for Colorado State, and CSU is, like I said, CSU. Frankly, I think they beat Memphis. I'm not surprised in the slightest, and frankly, if GCU wasn't in that little quadrant up there, I would have CSU going to the Sweet 16. But CSU is a team that needs to be looked out. Memphis has had really a hot on and off year in the American. So I really, really like CSU if you're looking at for Cinderella double-digit seeds to make a deep run possibly.
It's interesting because they don't really have a good track record, and neither does CU in this tournament. When the pressure is on, when the chips are on the line, they don't really have a good track record of stepping up. They kind of get ran around, and that seems like it could be a possibility. I don't know why, but it is still a thing. Every sport that a Colorado school plays in, there's less athletes on the floor for the Colorado team. There might even be more players from Colorado on these other schools, but there's less athletes on the floor for the Colorado schools. I hope that CSU is able to make a run. It was a huge step. We were in Vegas, which is where the Mountain West Championship was taking place, and there was a lot of CSU colors out there. The WAC.
Yeah, were lots of different. It was unfortunate that I had to have a game on Saturday, or else I definitely would have tried to come early to watch some of these games. But yes, there was lots of basketball all over the place in Vegas.
Is who is the conference champion outside of the other power ones? So we have the SEC champion was Florida, if I'm not mistaken. We had Michigan win the Big Ten. Big 12 champion this season was I have it. Big 12 was Houston. Of those big conferences, the major conferences, I guess, the Power Five that we would call them in football, what conference champion has made the biggest strides and you think we'll see deep in the tournament?
I mean, look, Houston is consistently very, very good. They consistently put up great numbers and are a very, very tough out. But what I've seen from this Florida team, they're a team that's been very hot on a lot of people's tails. Like this is a team that consistently in the last couple of years has not been very good, right? They really fell off after not Bill Self, what's his name? The guy from Chicago, who they had a coach that left to the Bulls. Billy Donovan, there's his name. Billy Donovan. After Billy Donovan left, they really fell short for a lot of years. But this team is currently has this guy named Olivier Rioux. Do you know this guy, Jimmy?
I have no clue.
Well, start learning French because this start learning Canadian French because this mother's 7'9". I'm not lying. 7'9", not 7 foot. He's nearly pushing 8 feet. This motherfucker's nearly pushing 8 feet. They have a 7'1" kid on their team who looks up to this guy a full head taller than him. Let's just put that out there. Like they found this Canadian kid, Olivier Rioux, who has been fantastic for them all season. And frankly, like if you look at like what you need from March teams, you need a big, right, to go deep, and you need an exciting guard, right? Well, if you're looking for a team with an exciting big, it is Olivier Rioux and Florida and what they're doing down there in Gainesville. So Florida is a team that, frankly, like I mean, look, obviously I have a lot of friends and that guys I work with are big Johnny's fans that I just feel like, I got to root for the Johnnies. I have a hard time picking the Johnnies over Florida. Florida has been really red hot. When I saw them run through that SEC tournament, I was like, damn, this team is for real. This team is very for real. So Florida is a hot team commodity to make a very, very deep run in this big dance.
All right. I don't know if you definitely have your bracket in front of you. So now wrapping this thing up, we'll talk about our national champion picks at the end. But what are some of your biggest upsets or what would be considered upsets in your bracket? As I'm looking through my first round, I have Michigan losing in the first round. I have Clemson losing in the first round. Those are both 12-5 upsets. I believe that I picked GCU and CSU in their first round. So those are a few of my bigger upsets as well. I have 3 12-5. So that's either going to work out great in my favor or not anywhere in my favor. I also picked New Mexico to beat Marquette, and that's a personal thing. I hate Marquette for personal reasons, but what are some of the bigger upsets that you see in your first round?
I mean, like I had GCU and CSU as well. I have GCU in my Sweet 16. I know that's personal bias there. I'm not lying. I'm not. My blinders are on. I'm aware that I'm very personal thinking that, but I really do think this team is better than last year, and frankly, that we got one win last year. Why can't we pull off 2 wins? So that I have GCU in my Sweet 16. That's probably the deepest double-digit seed that I have here. I have Illinois going on a little bit of a run. I have them knocking off Kentucky, knocking off Tennessee, going to the round of 8. That's the highest seed I have outside of, or in my Elite 8 that I have going that far. Other first round exits that I have. Let's see, big ones. I have Yale. Yale's always a tough team come March. That I think that could make some noise. Kansas there's 2 matchups in the round of 32 that I'm very, very intrigued by that I think all eyes should be, and they both come out of the West region. Florida, UConn, obviously, we just talked about that. Florida, between the national championships and Florida, reigning back-to-back national champions, and Florida, who's been red hot. That matchup second round is a dream. I think Kansas for St. John's is also a matchup that could be 2 very high-powered programs with great coaching that is going to come down to the wire. Obviously, Hunter Dickinson in his 12th year of eligibility there at Kansas is leading that team. But St. John's obviously the hot team, so I would not be surprised if we saw the madness in terms of higher seeds upsetting better teams comes from this West region where we see Florida obviously and St. John's are the teams that obviously have the highest chances of winning, but I would not be surprised if we saw our Cinderella team that could be a double-digit seed in the Final Four or a non-top 4 seed in the Final Four come from this West region because how deep this region is.
All right. National champion as of before the tournament starts. Who'd you pick to go all the way?
I've went so many different ways in this. I really have. I've teetered on Duke. I've teetered on St. John's. I've teetered on Florida. I've teetered on Auburn. I've teetered on top of these. A couple things of note is the number 1 seeds. I know it's really kosher to pick the number 1 seed to win it all, but you look at the percentage of how likely the number 1 seed is the last couple of years to win it all. It's merely hitting at 90%. Of the number 1 seed winning it, a single number 1 seed winning. So it's very hard to pick away from that. I'm going to go with Duke. I think Cooper Flagg is that good of a talent. I think he'll be the number 1 pick in the draft next year if he decides to come out. That's obviously we'll see if that happens. But I have Duke beating Florida in my national championship. My Final Four, I have Michigan State. Michigan State, I feel like really is going to wake up after that Big Ten loss in their tournament. I feel like they're going to go on a little bit of run. I liked Auburn a lot with Johnny Broome, but what I saw in the SEC tournament, I did not love. So I have Michigan State, Florida, Duke, and then I took Houston in my Final Four. Houston's always a staple that I feel like it's a very comfortable pick. It's like, you know what? They'll make the Final Four. They won't win, but they'll make the Final Four. That's one of my comfy picks that I feel like I'm most confident in as opposed to the other 3.
Yeah, now that I'm looking through, I have St. John's. I kind of gave that away. I picked the Bonnies to win. I have them beating Duke, so a 2-1 upset in the national title. I do think Michigan State, they have a season, if they can shoot, because they've been hot and cold shooting, I think Tom Izzo has the coaching to be able to get them to go pretty deep. So I have St. John's beating Michigan State, and I have Duke over Kentucky on the other side. So a lot of blue bloods, and then obviously the Big East representative, but I'm nervous. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm normally good through the first round and a half, and then it just all falls apart. And that's where I show that I don't know anything and don't watch any college basketball. But I have St. John's over Duke in my national title game.
The only couple notes that I have about yours is like I said, Johnny's have a very tough road. They're going to be well tested if they make it that far. They'll be very, very well tested if they make it to the national championship, as opposed to Duke, which may have a weaker little region. But with Kentucky, obviously this is the first year. It's the first year of the post Calipari Kentucky. So we're going to see obviously Calipari another guy known for early run upsets. All right, obviously Lehigh comes to mind. Obviously, CJ McCollum and the Jack Golke last year comes to mind. Like they're a team that you think about. Okay, are they upset watch? I think with a new regime and a new new guy under the rim, I think that could give Kentucky a little bit more of a boost. So I don't hate that pick.
We'll see how it plays out. We're going to keep track of the rounds as they go. We're going to get the first two this weekend on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. BYU making the tournament, last thing, and then we'll move on because my other team in the NFL made a little bit of noise that we'll talk about before we get into our top fives. But is BYU, with everything else that goes around with them, are they likely to have this situation where they can't play on Sunday and get either screwed or get the advantage of an extra or less of a day of rest?
Look, I have them being a first round exit, frankly, and they're not going to beat Wisconsin. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. That's a team that's I'm not going to waste my time talking about them because I don't know anything about BYU basketball, but that's just a story that everyone brings up in each year. I remember the last couple of years, they they can't play on Sunday. Well, actually, now that's true, but at the same time, you're not going to be able to play on Sunday because you lost anyway. So who cares? So I don't know. BYU is not unless Jimmer Fredette comes back to college for his 12th year of eligibility as well. They're not a scary team in my opinion.
The only other big news outside of March Madness, and it happened the day after Selection Sunday, so it was every single TV was either talking about the tournament or talking about this news, but the Bengals invest heavily in their receiver room. We called them cheap long enough. Apparently they listened to this show, so thank you very much for tuning in, and I appreciate that. But I don't know where this puts the Bengals. I don't know where the team goes, but they invest $115 million in Jamar Chase. He's now the highest paid receiver in the NFL, and $114 million in T. Higgins. So the trio sticks in Cincinnati. I guess we're going to be scoring 90 points and hopefully giving up 89 because
two-thirds of your salary cap on a quarterback and two receivers is quite the entry into distress.
I saw the perfect meme to describe it. It was, you remember the Little Giants, and he's talking to the cowboy on the hobby horse. He's like, "Hey, you want to come play play football?" I guess. That's
it's not even that. We can bring back the meme up of the draft when we talked about this 4 years ago, whenever it was. Penei Sewell blocking for Joe Burrow, not be able to catch it. Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow on his back, not be able to throw the ball. The meme just fits perfectly again. So
it's a lot of money. It's a heavy investment, and I'm not sure if it's going to be the
congratulations, you paid your guys. It's awesome. I'm glad to see that they're not leaving. But frankly, for the long-term aspect of this roster, you're going to ruin Joe Burrow's career. So
yeah, I wish it would have been a different. I wish it would have been Hendrickson, Chase, and Burrow. And I know that they would have been pissy losing T. But I think you can get a receiver.
You franchise tagged him. You could have traded him and not given up for nothing too, which is also a possibility that could have happened.
I think that's what everybody was expecting.
T. Higgins is a great player. There's zero denying he's a great player. But frankly, you can find number twos on the street. You could draft a number two this year if you're that angry. Number twos are number twos for a reason. Okay, is he a great number two? Possibly the best number two in the NFL? Yes. He is. It's arguably the best 1-2 punch in the NFL. Very easily. That's not up for discussion. What is up for discussion is that the roster is played with 22 guys. And 11 guys on offense and 11 guys on defense. And with how bad your defense was last year, getting worse defensively is a bold move, Cotton.
Like I said, I don't think that it was the correct move, but it was a move, and it was big. Took over the sports cycle for a little bit.
I know you want Tyler Warren, but I pray for your sake that you draft a defensive guy in the first round.
I think that we need to go all linemen.
You will literally have nobody to play defense over there. Like literally nobody. If Hendrickson is moved or sits out or whatever, and you draft tight end in the first round, and Colston Loveland, because Tyler Warren's not dropping that far. If Colston Loveland's a Bengal, I would. All I'm saying is this: if you're a Bengals fan, start looking for new teams.
No, it needs to be offensive and defensive line, and it's defensive line first. We need a pass rusher that can somehow, at some point,
there's a lot of great names
for what
too.
we have.
This edge group, Walter Nolan
if we had T,
in the country,
we might be able to get up high enough to get Abdul Carter or maybe that's a little bit of a stretch.
Look,
but
now you're speaking on your ass because unfortunately the price tag of how valuable people are in the NFL as opposed to the NBA. If T. Higgins was an NBA player, it would be 4 firsts and 2 seconds for him. And unfortunately, in T. Higgins' world, it's a second at best. And that's what you go to gotten. But hey, it is what it is.
I guess I'm interested in the draft. I'll have to do a lot of research on defensive linemen, and hopefully we get a few steals in the late rounds. I don't really have anything else for NFL wise. Let's talk hockey before we get into top five, because the Avalanche are legit again, and there are rumors swirling. It's been rumors coming around for the last few years. It's now a conspiracy. This has been brought up that it was planned by the Avalanche. They were always going to wait until they had the roster that they feel like they could compete for a Stanley Cup. But Gabriel Landeskog, the captain,
I don't know about that. I'll say is if you're not going to sit here and tell me the Avs didn't think that they could win at all the last couple of years. That's not true in my opinion. But I think that team thinks that they could have won the last couple of years if Valeri Nichushkin was chained to the fucking door and not an idiot. I think those teams. I would say that's a lie. In terms of they didn't think they could win the last couple of years. In terms of this team being better the last couple of years, I would agree on that part, though.
Well, the addition of Brock Nelson behind Marty Nietzsche's, Drury has been a hell of a pickup. And obviously, I think it all starts from the Wedgwood move. But EJ coming back is great for the locker room morale. And I think that's going to be a huge boost for Valeri Nichushkin to stay out of trouble. But if Landy comes back as well, I feel like the sky's the limit. And I welcome anybody in the playoffs. You're going to have to beat good teams in the playoffs. And I've been nervous about this first round matchup for the last few years. I thought Winnipeg, if they could get over their playoff demons, posed a threat last season. If it ends up being Dallas, that sucks that the NHL does that, where you have probably one of the best matchups in the first round. And then you're going to eliminate one of your top 2 cup contending teams. I don't think that there's anybody that I'd be worried about in a 7-game series. We have a shot against everybody again. That's the best thing about what's upcoming.
The biggest worry the last couple of years has obviously been Forgiev and how weak he's been, how weak he was in the playoff run, and having healthy offensive forwards. Well, you have healthy offensive forwards. Well, you do have arguably the best 1-2 punch at goalie right now because Wedgwood's been out of his mind while Blackwood has been injured the last couple of weeks, and now he's coming back tonight against Toronto. You have everything you could want from the team right now, and like I said, it's. I think it's fun. Look, I understand that the NHL needs viewership and needs all that. And a first round matchup between Colorado and fucking I don't even know like Montreal or the Toronto Montreal matchup does not do numbers, unfortunately. Okay, Toronto and fucking Tampa in the first round again does numbers. Denver versus Mikko Rantanen and the Dallas Stars does numbers. Okay, and if you're trying to get all the way throughout the playoffs, it makes sense because you look at the numbers and decreasing viewership throughout the playoffs. It makes sense because teams lose interest when your teams go out. But like I said, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be very, very exciting. Right now, if you're an Avs fan, right now your hope for right now is to try to secure home ice and hold on to that 2 seed in the division, so that way Dallas has to come to you. You don't have to go there. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm scared, but I'm also very, very excited to see what the possibility of this first round matchup it looks like. And like I said, I am cautiously optimistic, but everything that I've seen from the last couple of weeks, frankly, from Landy's team and from the Avs, seems like he's going to be ready to go next week. Obviously, he can't play until the playoffs because we're using a salary cap. But he's skating with the team already, doing line drills, traveling with the team on this road trip. By the way, he's in Toronto. He hasn't traveled with them on a road trip.
He needs to be with them in Toronto because that's where Val had one of his slip ups.
True. You just have to be. Like I said, Landy is a president of the team, and having the C back in the ice does. Like I said, it's better helpful than not.
Yeah. Other team that plays in Ball Arena, I think we should deserve to talk about them as well because they had a huge win on Monday night. We watched that one at sitting in MGM and in one of their country bars. But the Nuggets, without Christian Brown, Jokic, and Jamal Murray, get a big win in Golden State over the Warriors, and it was behind Aaron
By
Gordon.
the way, to our friends in Golden State that are listening, that's 9 straight wins over the Warriors.
Oh, so we're a little bit there, and I guess the Warriors they were 14-1 with Jimmy Butler on the floor.
Won 9 in a row before that game, obviously, and then they fell to us.
And now you're 14-2.
Look, that was cute. I'm glad the bench players step up that game. Frankly, that game was like, oh, cool. I won money on it. But I was more stressed about the Friday night game and the Saturday game because obviously Lakers without LeBron and Luka almost came into your building and beat you. That scared the shit out of me because I was like, what the fuck are we doing? And then the following night, you decide to go 0-2 against the worst team in the league in the Washington Wizards. And we did not beat the Wizards all season, the worst team in the league. This team, like I said, Jokic said it perfectly. It's like it's very hard for teams like that don't have switches to flip them on and off. It doesn't feel like this team has a switch. It's either it plays to its competition so much that it bites you in the ass. It bites you in the ass. Like Peyton Watson and company. Like what I saw from Spencer Jones hire Tyson too in the highlights was I was very impressed from Monday night. But like I just saw a lot of just mistakes and dumb things from this team Friday and Saturday night that makes me think that this team is frauds. And it hurts saying this, but like it's a lack of urgency from your general manager, from sitting on his ass and putting his hands in between his legs and start jerking off to Jokic highlights and not helping this team. And it's a lack of just urgency from this roster to consistently show up every night and do what's needed to win against every opponent and respect every opponent. And that's where my biggest gripe about this team is like, yeah, it's a nice win Monday night. But frankly, this team should have been already locked up to 2 seed. If you won those 2 games against Washington, you haven't lost these bad games, these close bad games throughout the season. Like we should easily be the number 2 best team in this conference. And we're getting looked over by a Warriors team that sits as a 6th seed. And everyone's like, oh, this is the 2nd best team in the West. Right? And the Lakers with Luka is now the 2nd best team in the West. You're getting overlooked for that. And you have the best player on the planet, if not the 2nd best at the least. And right now, like frankly, this team needs Aaron Gordon. It has to have Aaron Gordon in the lineup. And Aaron Gordon needs to be fully healthy for this team to have a worthless fucking shot. Because Michael Porter Jr. cannot do it on a nightly basis defensively. And Jamal Murray, we all have seen how inconsistent he was. He had 1 point going into the second half against the Lakers the other night. Like this team is just so inconsistent and it hurts my soul because obviously the best player on the planet is here. And frankly, this team is staring down a 1st-round matchup against Golden State or against Minnesota. And frankly, I am not confident against Minnesota. I'm confident against Golden State, but I'm not confident in this team getting to the Western Conference Finals right now with the way they're playing. And it's very disheartening.
It's tough. I mean, we had a shot one year where we could have had both teams win when the Nuggets won their championship. We thought the Avalanche were good enough. It almost seems like when one is up, the other one seems to be struggling and stumbling. Hopefully they're able to find something. And you'd like to think that Michael Malone and the coaching staff and Jokic will be able to motivate everybody.
Jokic will find something. Like this team is a tough out no matter what with Jokic. But the long term of can this team win another championship at the depth that it is right now, I would say no. Unfortunately, that's how unconfident I am with this team the way they're playing. That's one thing I never thought I'd be saying too, which sucks.
Yeah. Well, let's bring the mood back up. It's time for our top 5 March moments. And we're going to start with your list. So I'll get it pulled up on the screen, but explain what a March moment is. What were we going based off of here?
Just a moment. It's a madness moment. It's a madness moment. It could be, obviously Jimmy will have a lot more college wrestling. I have no college wrestling because I'm sorry, I don't watch it, but I have all the best college basketball moments frankly, my lifetime. Obviously I wasn't really, I might have been alive for Leitner, but I don't remember it very vividly. I don't remember those early Duke days. Like these are the moments that have meant something the last couple of years. Obviously, number 1, Chris Jenkins, game winner for Villanova in Phoenix, Arizona, over North Carolina, and Marcus Page in the game winner. Still one of the greatest shots in March Madness history. We have not had a game-winning shot like that in a very, very long time. Still haven't since that moment. And Chris Jenkins is forever etched in March Madness history for hitting that game winner.
Was that the 2016?
I believe that was either 2016 or 2017. I can't remember.
I feel like that was when we were seniors in high school.
It was either seniors. I think it was freshmen in high school because I went to Arizona during that time when I was at Augustana. So it was my freshman year. But Chris Jenkins will forever be etched in history. Number 2, Gordon Hayward misses the game winner off the backboard. If you don't know, you don't know. Gordon Hayward, the Butler Bulldogs, the original Cinderella team of our lifetime, obviously got to the national championship with the backs of Gordon Hayward. And if you lived in that moment, you remember seeing Duke obviously having that 1-point lead. Gordon Hayward taking the ball upfield, the ball hitting it off the glass and nicking the top of the rim and going out. It looked like the shot was going in. It would have been the greatest shot in frankly, basketball history if that thing fell. And Gordon Hayward was that close to being a March, not only hero, a March legend, and arguably the greatest moment and one of the greatest moments in March history. Like, that's how big of a moment that could have been. Obviously, Duke was the powerhouse, #1 seed for a reason. Butler were the never say die, always ready to go attitude. And obviously, they felt that this close, inches close from making that history. Number 3, very simple. The first ever 16 seed to upset a #1 seed, UMBC Golden Retrievers knock off the University of Virginia and back in I believe it was 2019. Maybe it was 2018. I think it was 2018 because the UVA won the national championship in 2019. 2018, first upset of 16 versus 1. Obviously, it's happened again with Fairleigh Dickinson and Purdue not too long ago. And while we had the show, like it's happened twice. We're gonna see a lot more, but it's one of the greatest upsets of all time. It's a Cinderella story. It's a team that scratched and clawed their way in, had a horrible season, and knock off UVA in the midst of a lot of people picking them to win their national championship. Obviously, they win the next year, but it's one of the greatest underdog stories of all time. And the UMBC Golden Retrievers upsetting UVA is my number 3. Number 4 and 5, these are more heartwarming things that made me fall in love with college basketball. Cardiac Kemba. If you don't know Cardiac Kemba, look up Cardiac Kemba highlights. If you were born in the 2000s and you don't know what it was like to watch Cardiac Kemba play for UConn, go back and watch the YouTube highlights because this guy was absolutely electric. I remember specifically being in Vail and skiing during the Big East tournament and sitting there for lunch and just having my eyes glued to the TV, watching Cardiac Kemba hit that step back game winner over Pitt and sending UConn to the Big East championship. And how great of a moment that felt. Look, UConn was the last team to go back to back. They did it with Kemba one year, then obviously Jeremy Lamb and Shabazz Napier the next year. Cardiac Kemba was something special. If you don't know Cardiac Kemba, like I said, Kemba Walker was a legend at UConn and how much fun he was watching. And obviously, number 5, this is a personal thing. GCU wins its first ever March Madness game last year. It was so damn cool seeing my team get to the dance and frankly win their first ever March Madness tournament. How cool was that to be the upset for St. Mary's? Hopefully this year we put together 2 wins, maybe 3 wins, who knows? But yeah, it was so much fun last year seeing that team do that. It's a team that I remember the team that first made to the dance. Like the back of my hand. It was a COVID year though, so there was no fans there, which sucked during that 2021 season. But still getting to the experience when they played here against Gonzaga, we lost, unfortunately. And I get to experience that with my family and my brother and all my friends in the group chat that we hadn't opened in 3 years probably. Get to talk about how we won a game, was so sick. And like I said, hopefully we can do the same again this year because that was a lot of fun last year.
I love that, March Madness has certain moments where in your life that you capture. Like you said, Kemba Walker was when we were young, and then the high school and college ones are a little bit special because, that's when you really become a fan of the sport. For myself, you mentioned it, I have a lot of wrestling. Starting off with college wrestling, Kyle Dake is the only person in college wrestling history to win 4 national championships at 4 different weight classes. I remember watching his 4th one, and then I went back and watched the other 3 because I was young in the sport at the time. But he had great rivalries. He's been a great ambassador of American wrestling, and Kyle Dake, that was a huge moment for him. He could have decided to stay and make it easy. I think he would have dominated everybody if he stayed at 1 weight class, but he went up and still dominated and challenged Jordan Burroughs for a while, was close to making the Olympic team, but unfortunately he was at probably the toughest weight class in the country's history. Robles, if you don't know, there's a movie on Amazon Prime, one-legged wrestler, one-legged guy. He wrestled at 125 pounds, which was it's a disadvantage, obviously. You only have one leg, but he was also probably going to be 170 pounds if he had both of his legs. So he just looks big and jacked up as he's wrestling these tiny guys, but lost in the national finals his junior year, comes back, wins the national championship his senior year. Huge moment and kind of one of the more inspiring stories in sports. My number 3, I know you remember this one, Kevin Ware breaking his leg, snapping it in half. I remember it was Easter Sunday that we were watching the game, and we happened to be sitting down after the egg hunt, pre-meal, and I was like, I never even thought something like that was going to be able to happen. And unfortunately, more compound fractures have happened since then. That one was kind of the first one that stands out in my mind. VCU, I listened to their Cinderella run on the radio driving back from Arizona when we played in the baseball tournament. Speaking of moments when it captures when you were a kid. And then if you don't know who Gable Steveson is, he is probably going to be the heavyweight national champion this year. But he's an Olympic gold medalist, and he's wrestling back in college because, again, everybody has a 12th year of eligibility, went to the WWE, went to the NFL, didn't use his last one, and now he's like, yeah, I'll go beat up on these college kids for one more season.
I understand it's a different sport, but I find it very, very weird that the guy tried out for an NFL roster and still is able to wrestle in college. That's just me. I'm sorry. That he's a great wrestler. I'm not denying that part, but I find it very, very weird that you can go out on a football NFL practice squad or go to WWE or do all that and still be like, oh, I have another year of eligibility. I'll go wrestle and take a spot away from somebody. I don't know. That's just me. I'm sorry. It is.
It's true. And they have a lot of, he's wrestling at Minnesota, and they have a lot of really good guys that probably deserve chances, but he's always going to get the chance because he'll beat everybody that they put in front of him. So it's a weird situation that way. Speaking of Gable Steveson, we're going to move on to player, and benchwarmer of the week. My play of the week goes back to college wrestling. This is the 2 seed and probably going to be the 3 seed. So it's Wyatt Hendrickson in the orange, and I'll just there's some highlights from his match. But Oklahoma State was winning the Big 12 tournament, and then in the finals round, they had 3 matches against UNI. Northern Iowa was the team that was in second. Northern Iowa beat them, locating his shoulder near the end of the match, still guts it out, still wins, and gives Oklahoma State under David Taylor for the first season their first conference championship in 4 years. So it's a huge moment for him, and it's something that I'm going to be bringing up as I continue to coach wrestling. We got a national tournament that we're going to in a couple weeks. I'll be like, hey, watch this match. Figure out how tough you need to be in order to be good at this sport. I love that moment, and it was a great match and great event.
Absolutely. My play of the week, it just happened yesterday. Alabama State game winner in the first 4. For those that weren't watching the game, full court heave, ball tipped around, ball lands in the hands of basically the guy in the back, and he just lays it right up for the game winner. It's one of those plays that's just so crazy. It's like a Hail Mary play in football. It's like all the guys that are supposed to catch the ball hit off their hands, and the guy in the back that was just trailing it landed with the ball in his hands, ball in the bottom of the basket. Alabama gets to move on to play tomorrow, and obviously probably lose to Auburn tomorrow, but still, it's a moment that kid at school will never forget.
It's already crazy. March is the reason why we love watching this tournament. And yeah, it was a Hail Mary pass from all the way across court. It's something that you never think is going to work out. And hey, Alabama State, you're still dancing for one more game. We'll see what happens tomorrow night. Player of the week. I'll let you start. I have no idea what's been going on. And it's weird. You picked a Philadelphia player?
Oh yeah, Jimmy. No, you'll see why. Quentin Grimes. For those that didn't see everything that happened in the NBA trade deadline, Dallas Mavericks also made a different move. They traded Quentin Grimes, who you see picture, for Cody Martin in a first-round pick, and they traded Quentin Grimes away. And Cody Martin, by the way, has not played second for the Dallas Mavericks. And one of the many injuries they have, they're about to start forfeiting games basically because they can't field a roster. But Quentin Grimes, since being traded from the Dallas Mavericks, is averaging 28 points per game. For those that don't know, the dude was averaging 7 points per game for the Dallas Mavericks before he got traded. He's averaging 28 points per game. For those that know, that is a 21-point difference from leaving Dallas to going to Philadelphia. 21 points. He had 46 points the other night, his career high. 13 rebounds against Houston. And 2 games ago, he put up 28, 6, and 2 against Dallas. In the game that Dallas obviously doesn't have Kyrie, doesn't have Anthony Davis, doesn't have Luka, doesn't have Dwight Powell, doesn't have Derek Lively, and they can barely field a team roster of 7 guys. Basically, that is a real thing that they have to start forcing guys back from injury because of how many guys they have. This is a guy who was on their team, by the way, a part of a team that made the championship last year. Who you traded away to Philly, who's now dropping 28 points a game the last 10 games. That's insane.
Is Harrison fired yet? Does he still have his job, or did I miss anything there?
Nope, still has a job. Apparently, still has a job.
There's no way he lasts past the season. They're gonna fire
there's a real conversation that the Quentin Grimes trade may have been worse than the Luka one because of how bad that has been. Like that Quentin Grimes may have been more of the "what are you doing" deal as opposed to the Luka deal where you could try to fathom getting Anthony Davis back. Quentin Grimes deal just made 0 sense.
Speaking of my player of the week, I have Brandon Cannon. He's a great story. Grew up in Colorado and wrestled at Ponderosa High School also. Beat cancer his junior year, came back and won a state championship in Colorado his senior year. He's been wrestling at Ohio State, and this past weekend, or 2 weekends ago now, he was the runner-up in the Big Ten tournament, fell to what I think is probably going to be the national champion. So it might not be his year, but it was a Cinderella run. I think he was the 8th seed and upset the number 1 seed on his way to the finals match in the Big Ten, which is the best wrestling conference in the country. So I have Brandon Cannon. Love to give our local Colorado guys a shout out. And I coached against that kid. It was never went well for me when I coached against him, but I've sat across the corner from him and I know how much work he puts in. So I wanted to give him a lot of credit, and he's in a tough ass weight class. We'll see what ends up happening there. Who do you got for bench warmer of the week?
Look, did you know that the first MLB game of the season has already started?
Not until you said that yesterday as we were sitting there at breakfast.
Did not. No, neither did I. That is my bench warmer of the week. Look, they're in Japan. The Cubs are playing the Dodgers. I understand that you want to give the guys a flight back home so they don't have to play every single day after. But opening day happened on Monday, by the way, for those that weren't aware. By the way, exactly. Maybe obviously if you need baseball stuff, go talk to our friends at DMVR with Christian and company, because I could care less right now. The fact that MLB opening day already happened. I mean, I get it's not the inaugural. I get it's not the inaugural opening day where everyone plays, but the first game already happened, and no one. I think no. If you would ask the normal person, I'd be like, "Wait, really? That happened already?" That's legit the response.
Yeah, it makes no sense. I don't know why they did that. And yeah, I didn't know until yesterday when we were all recovering from 4 days in Vegas. You're like, oh shit, MLB season started. Oh, cool. I can't wait to not pay attention to that for another 7 months until it's playoff time. And maybe even not even then. With the trip, my bench warmer of the week, it's airplane etiquette. We were flying Southwest. I know you didn't fly on the same airline that we did, but the cattle call, I get why traveling is stressful, and we did get pushed because of the windstorms, and it was a rough landing. I was glad that we were able to make it home safely, and I was wondering what was going to happen with your flight because we got pushed on almost an hour and a half with the way that the wind was blowing both in Nevada and in Colorado. But we're all going to the same place. There's the same number of seats for everybody. You don't have to push in front, and you don't have to lie about what boarding number you are. You're not B46. You know how I know that? I'm B46. And it says it right here. I could prove it to you, but I'm not going to be a dick. I don't want to be that guy. And then I also,
by the way, is the back. By the way, that's not like a number that. I mean, that person must have really fucked up because B46 is not even that good of a number.
No, it wasn't a good number. But the first group had already gone, and then it was the people that needed extra time and the assistance. He's like, "Oh, I need to get on." It's like, bro, I guarantee you, there's not a single seat left, and there's not going to be a single seat on the plane. And then there was issues with other people like. I don't care about all the, like, if your kid has an issue on the flight, it happens. I'm not going to put that on you. But if you're, if you have the middle seat, Niko, you are entitled to an armrest if you need it. You kind of have to take up the least amount of space, but you should not be setting your arms on top of other people.
Yes,
or bumping other people off. This is not bumper cars. We're not fighting. This is not jousting. If you do that, we're going to have an issue and I'm going to get kicked off the plane.
And spend more time in Vegas, which I don't think would have been good for either of us. No. I will say, like, my flight was a lot better. Like, I took off normal time, landed 15 minutes early, even, and I was even nice enough where this family of 2 was sitting next to me, and the lady was talking to the person in front of me. I was like, "Wait, is that your sound?" She's like, "Yes." I was like, "Would you like me to switch? I can switch." And I switched, and I had an aisle seat, and I had a bigger guy next to me, unfortunately, but I was like, you know what? I would, if I was in that situation, of course, I'd want to sit with my son, especially with how difficult of a flight it was going to be, and how bumpy it was getting into the snowy, treacherous of Denver, Colorado, as opposed to Vegas and go over the mountains. So I was like, you know what, I'll let them be together, and they're very, very gracious for that. Like I said, I didn't even know we landed. I felt a little bump, and I thought that was a plane, and I looked over, and I was like, oh shit, that's the land. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm home. So I'm not gonna lie, my flight was a lot different.
But we were able to make good time, but I was not comfortable for the last 10 minutes of the flight. And I got woken up. I was napping. I watched a couple episodes of Invincible. I'm almost all the way caught up. I'm so far close to the catching up that I've restarted it, and I'm showing Carly, and I'm that guy. Like, you're going to watch my superhero show, sit down with me and watch my superheroes and watch my stories. But no, I'm glad that we were able to go out. It was a fun time. And yeah, you never walk away as a winner from Vegas. But if you had a good time, if everybody makes it, nobody got sick, that was the best part about it. At least I don't think anybody got sick. If anybody did, nobody admitted to it. But that was my first bachelor party as best man, and I think that he said he had a great time, and I know that he had a hell of a time on Monday night.
Yeah, that's all that matters. So as long as he had a great time, that's all that matters. Doesn't matter what we do, as long as the groom gets to have fun. That's all that matters.
Yeah. But you got anything else for the people before? I know you're going to be watching more college basketball.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I was going to watch Nuggets Lakers tonight. No Jokic and no Jamal Murray as we're recording this, so that's exciting. So there goes my nightly plans. Looks like I'm watching college basketball, which I should be anyways. I don't know. Like I said, I'm watching the Avs right now in the background. I will be throwing on the I believe it's Xavier and because UNC played last night. Xavier, Texas. So I'll be watching that closely tonight. And like I said, I'm excited. I'm sure everyone else is excited. It's going to be fun. I know we didn't obviously deep dive into everything that's happened in March Madness this year as much as years past, but I'm sorry, we have new jobs and lots of things going on. But I hope you got your whereabouts of listening to our Cinderella teams and listening to who we got, because it's going to be beneficial with you hopefully winning prizes or winning different things.
As always, if you enjoyed the show, make sure you leave a like, comment in on the stream. Make sure you follow, subscribe, tell your friends, check us out. We'll be going through the rest of March Madness, and then once playoffs start, we'll have the late night playoff streams coming back. I'm going to hate my life as the last month of school as a teacher, but it's worth it because we enjoy bringing the content to you guys every week. Be sure at FEOTB Pod, all social media platforms. Enjoy the March Madness. Don't lose too much. They are college kids. Remember that. You don't need to bet your life savings on some college kid, hopefully not screwing off the night before a game and making his free throws. But as always, for myself, Jimmy Pilato, my co-host Niko Bryant, far end of the bench, episode 223. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.
If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.